Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals Podcast. My name is Dawn. I'm so glad you're joining in for year number 3. I think this is like our 7th or 8th episode of the year. I'm very excited about this. Year number 3 is a little bit different than year number 2. Year number 2, we did a lot of that emotional kind of self-growth help work with my co-host Dixie every week. This year, we've gone back to the interview process like we did in year 1. And we're taking a specific subject each week and we're diving into that subject and what it looks like for our guests. And we're going to allow our guests to tell us how they've traversed through that. And the idea here is to open our box of non-judgment, our box of new perspective, and maybe hear something from a little bit different angle we hadn't thought of before by hearing what our guests have done through the subject, how they've walked through it, how they've gone through challenges with it, how they've succeeded with it. So today, I'm really excited about my guest. First of all, I haven't seen you in forever, I feel like, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's been a
Yes.
long time.
A long time. So my guest today hails from Nashville, Tennessee, but not originally from Nashville, Tennessee. We'll get to that in a bit. But her name is Sarah, and I met Sarah, eons ago. How long ago was it?
Probably 12 years ago, I think.
Woof. That's a long time.
I know.
But I will tell you, I met you when I was teaching at Hot Yoga Plus in Nashville. You were working at the front desk, one of
Yep.
my favorite people ever. I always look forward to our time and our conversation because it was always fun. Such a doll. And I think we became close friends pretty quickly. And I just love everything about you. You started a family. When you were there, things were kind of rolling. You were married to Sean, and life is lifing. It's just going and going and going. And I thought, you know what? You now have 3 children. And before I hit the record, this was kind of a total crazy thing for me. You said, and I've got a 22-year-old and an 18-year-old. And you told me, I think your kids were my kids' age when we met and we started working together at Hot Yoga. And I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, without further ado, my friends, welcome my friend Sarah to the show. Yeah. And today we're going to speak about that working mom. That's the big thing I wanted you to come on and talk about because as long as I've known you, you have been balancing all the things, floating and rotating from whatever job needed to be done at home to the job that you were getting paid for financially. And let's just call a spade a spade. Moms don't get paid, right? Being a
No,
mom
they don't.
doesn't pay financially, doesn't pay the cheddar, right?
Uh-uh.
So you got to balance it all out. So I am so excited to have you come on and talk about the challenges of balancing it, how you've navigated it, maybe give some working moms that might be struggling today some insight on how to get through it and what you're doing along the way, maybe even sharing some of your current struggles too. So tell me, first of all, a little bit about you as a mom and a professional. What are you working in right now? Like what's your meat and potatoes?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me on. It's such an honor. I love talking about this kind of stuff so much. But right now, man, I am a director of operations for a private security company right now, which,
Okay.
yeah, it's a field I never predicted being in, but am really enjoying being in.
Awesome.
I'm learning so much. I knew very little about it. And I'm learning a lot, which I really love. I love getting out of kind of what I'm used to. I made a really big career transition actually basically over the summer. I had been an administrative director for 8 years at a church actually here in Nashville. And just a strange series of events led up to me I got to actually have the summer off with my kids, first of all, which
Okay.
was um, unexpected, but worked
Mhm.
out really, really well for a
Mhm.
lot of reasons. Childcare, the
Right,
the
right.
number one thing. But also just I have worked, like you kind of said in the intro, really for the last 12 to 13 years, which my oldest is turning 14 next month.
Mhm.
So, I haven't always worked full time, but for the last about 8 to 9 years, I have. And so
Mhm.
to actually have a summer off, um, and just get to, do the fun stuff with the kids was really an unexpected blessing, I would say. So,
Mhm.
um,
And you
that's
have
what I
3
do right.
kids.
I have 3. I have 3
3.
kids, yes. So
Yeah, ages
we
from, you said well, they're all getting ready to
they're
have a birthday.
we're leveling up in our house. We're about to level up. So starting
Okay.
in November, early November through 5 days before Christmas, we have everyone's birthday.
Good.
And so they're all about to turn 7, 11, 14.
Well,
I
that's not
know.
busy at all. First of all,
No,
that you have
not at all.
3 kids, like, in a very active stages of life
Yes.
for where they
Yes.
are, and then you throw in the holidays. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's like all of our time, all of our money,
Oh,
all of our
right.
sanity just goes bye-bye.
It's right. Right. So
I know, so
let's just throw this one out there. How do you do that as a mom during the
yes.
holidays? I mean,
Well,
wow.
we've learned to cut our losses where we can. And, I think that honestly, that carries over in a lot of areas. And I would say one of the biggest things I've learned over the years. But when it comes to this stuff in particular, I tell myself, remind myself, I can't do everything perfectly, right? So there's going to be stuff that has to give in
Mhm.
one way or another. And I also we try to think outside of the box when it comes
Ooh.
to the birthdays. Obviously, like we want it to feel special for the kids. We want them to feel important.
Mhm.
Um, but let's be real, everyone is always sick at that time of year as well. And the last thing I want is to throw a birthday party with 30 kids and someone get sick. Like my daughter's birthday is usually either on Thanksgiving or within like a day or two of Thanksgiving. And
Yeah.
then my youngest, he's 5 days before Christmas. So it's like one thing goes sideways, you could have a whole family down for the count.
Right, right? You think about that. You're
I
not
know.
wrong.
So I try and like help my kids. I'm like, do you like wanna like I'll take you shopping. You could have like a
Yeah.
yes day. I was like, let's limit the exposure.
Yes, right? And that's a real
um
thing you have to think about.
yeah. Yeah,
Legit.
we sometimes do like a combined. So like with my older two, their birthdays are only 2 weeks apart. And so
Mhm.
it's like, and now, one's a boy, one's a girl. They're getting older, so their friend groups are diversifying.
Yeah.
But that worked when they were young. Like, hey, let's do something combined at a park outside. I don't have to
Yeah.
clean anything up. I don't want a bunch of people in my
Right.
It's
Well,
just
it's
getting
about
creative.
efficiency too. It's not only about like the illness kind of time of the year, but it's also about efficiency at the time of the
Yep.
year too. That's
Yep.
what I hear you saying is that it's really something that you've had to pick and choose and really kind of figure your way through about
Yes.
how to be efficient.
Yep. Yep. We're big on experiences now that the kids are getting older. Because I also hate like stuff. I hate lots of stuff. And so because
Right.
of like birthdays and Christmas, I feel like that time of year it's so easy to just be inundated with like
Mm,
crap piling
yep.
up. And so now that they're older too, we're like, okay, let's think about even for Christmas, let's think about experiences over like lots of presents that you won't even play with a year from now.
Yes, and I've always had this experience when we do something with our kids, when we travel with them, they always come back older, and I say that in
Yeah.
air quotes, right? They always come back a little bit more, like they've seen something, right? And
Hmm. Hmm.
they articulate differently.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a difference in their maturity level, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where we go. So, yeah, I'm with you, girl.
Yeah.
Experiences. That's how we operate too, and we still do. Even with the 22 and the 18-year-old, we're planning like instead of Christmas presents, we're planning like a 4-day trip someplace. Haven't figured it
Yes.
out yet, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's something something for all of us, that's our gift to each other.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
So,
those are my ways.
well, good. It's clearly you've had obviously probably had growing pains along the way figuring that
Yes.
out, but it sounds like a great game plan.
Yeah.
So, that's impressive. I mean, I think
Yep.
it's hard for us to wrap our heads around what looks normal and what we think is okay, right? What's the acceptable thing versus what we wanna do and stepping outside of
Absolutely.
that. what's the normal working mom, working parents, working household with 3 kids look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's a typical day for you with your kids and your job? Tell me a little bit about that and how you manage that. As
Well,
you giggle, I know.
it's funny, when I was working for the church, that church had a private school that my kids were going to. And so in some ways, our mornings were quite seamless in the sense of we had a couple of years to really dial in our routine. And then our commute was the same. I'd drop them
Mhm.
off at school. I'd be at work. We're all, we're close in proximity. My husband was working. I was going to the east side. My husband was working in South Franklin.
Mm,
Um, and so we were kind of, we were kind of ships in the night from that standpoint. We would all get home around 5 and it's like dinner, homework, bed, repeat the
nonstop
next morning.
wash and rinse and
Um,
repeat,
and
yeah.
but he would leave for work at like 6:15 in the morning. And so
Mm,
when I say like over the end of the school year, the spring, over the summer, like literally everything changed for us, not just my job. My husband got a new job. My kids changed schools as well.
wow.
So we are, let's see, we're like 2 months into like our new normal.
Yeah.
Um, and it's all good. It all changed for the better. My
Mhm,
husband has a remote job. My job is like I go into an office 2 days a week.
mhm.
But and my kids are going to school in Franklin. So
Oh,
we
goodness.
do still have the commute,
Yeah.
but it's really it's really great. Our days now are like my husband and I get to share that load of pickup and drop off. And so, depending on who's
Aw,
got the flexibility, we're in a very sweet spot now, but it has not always been that way. So, we
sure.
have had the chaos. We still have to be out the door by 7 a.m.,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So, it's not all smooth sailing by any means, but
Right.
we're now in a season where we do get to kind of tag team together more. But,
Mhm.
naturally, I think that um, there's a bit that does still fall heavily on the mom. I know everyone's situation is different. And
Mhm.
I would say I never set out to be a working mom. I never really envisioned what it would look like for me. But I grew up with a mom who didn't work until I mean, my mom was home with us until I was in high school. And I'm the
Okay.
oldest. So I think maybe my junior or senior year of high school, she went back to work.
Mhm.
And my youngest sibling, I think he was in high school by that time too. But I just kind of assumed like, well, I guess that's what I'll do, by the time
Yeah.
that we had our first. So it's looked very different at different times for
Yeah.
us.
Well, and I heard you say something a little bit ago about your new normal.
Mhm.
And I want to ask you a little bit about kind of like dive into that for a second because the new normal, I think for moms, specifically with 3 kids and all the different things that happen, because you throw a sick child in the day. You throw a flat tire in the day.
Yeah.
You throw you throw a I forgot my lunch or my homework and I'm like 40 miles away from you and I really need
Yep,
that because this is a grade for your 14-year-old. I
yep,
that new normal is constantly evolving. So,
constantly. I've had
how do
all
you
3 of
manage
those
that?
scenarios in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, have you seriously? Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
yes, all 3 of them. It's
Sarah,
hilarious.
Sarah.
Um
Well, I mean, I think too, though, with multiple kids, it's almost like you have to roll with those punches.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the biggest thing I've learned I think my mom first taught me this phrase of being a recovering type A. I think that's how she puts it
Oh, I'm
for
writing that
herself.
down. Your mom is
And
amazing, by the way.
she is. She
Yeah.
really is. Um, and
Recovering type A.
yes, so I for forever have been that kind of perfectionist, um, very like goal oriented detail. Like if
Mhm.
it's not the way I see it happening, then it's like a waste. It's like, and
Right,
that's like my own expectation of myself, not of other people.
right.
And so with kids in the mix, um, plus the demands of work and
Mhm,
family, all of it, and you
mhm.
you quickly realize that it is humanly impossible for everything to go exactly the way that you envision it going. And I think
Yeah.
that applies macro in life and micro.
Mhm.
Um, and so if you don't develop the skill of like flexibility and adaptability, you're really just setting yourself up for, um, it might not be like failure per se, but a lot of difficulty.
Right.
And I think,
Yes.
you know, the anxiety that it would cause for me early on, where it's like, I've got, the pressure I would put on myself of like
Yeah.
things happening a certain way and it not.
Mhm.
I mean, and it still happens, I'm not by any means excelling all the time at it, but just to, it's figuring out what can you kind of let loose on, what
Mhm.
and prioritizing
Mhm.
from that standpoint, and being
Mm.
flexible in that way. Okay, so like if I can give a little bit in, you know, whatever, the laundry being done by this time. The
Yeah.
world's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
gonna end, like,
Yeah. For sure.
maybe my house is not gonna stay perfectly, tidied during the week, but that's okay because I know there's these other things that are higher priority to make sure that and the other stuff will happen. It'll happen when it
Right.
happens.
Right. It sounds to me like that's the balance that you've had to work through to get to. Like it's probably taken a bit to figure out what I can let. I love that. Let loose of. It's not let go
Mhm.
of, it's let loose of. It's just kind of loosening up that hold that we have. So it's not like saying what I was doing isn't any good. I got to get rid of it. It's like
Yeah.
what I was doing deserves a little bit of space around it. So maybe some new things can kind of come in. So
Yes.
the
Yes.
challenge.
Well, I was gonna say, I think I try and do that on like a daily and weekly basis too.
Mhm.
So even in my days, it's like, okay, tomorrow, what do I have going on? Okay, what's the most important? All right, I need to make sure
Mhm.
that this is done first, then this, and anything else I can kind of fill in below that. But yeah, the
Yeah.
flexibility is key for keeping your sanity, honestly, for me at least.
Totally, totally. So it sounds to me like the pressure to kind of do it all, like again, the
Mhm.
air quotes I throw up there, like being able to do it all, it sounds like you have gotten to a place where you're comfortable with it not all being done. So talk to
Yeah.
me about when you weren't
Mhm.
comfortable in that place.
Yeah.
How was the balance with getting everything done as a mom, as a career individual, like all the things that go into that, as a
Yeah.
spouse too, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? As a
Well, yeah,
wife.
you can't forget about that
It
part.
sounds like I hadn't even said anything about your husband,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think the reason or how I even started working to begin with, my oldest, I mean, hot yoga really was that was my first job since having a kid. And so that was right after my oldest turned
Mhm,
1. And that was purely out of like practical necessity.
mhm,
Um, and so when I say I never really envisioned one way or that, and I felt like an immense amount of guilt when and I was only
mhm.
working part-time, a few hours a
Yeah,
week, but
yeah.
I was like, "But I'm a mom. I shouldn't be doing this. Like I need to be at home,
Mhm.
all these thought patterns that like I don't I no one ever told me these things that it was just kind of like I found myself examining, like why am I thinking this? Do I need to be thinking this way? Where is this coming from? And what I actually started to realize was, as time went on, as I like my responsibilities there increased, and then as I moved on, even and started working more, was I actually found myself becoming a better mom
Oh, wow,
while
yeah.
working, and it really surprised me. I think at first, and I've told lots of my friends this now, is like I think that I'm not cut out for the stay-at-home mom life.
Okay.
And like that when I first started to acknowledge that within myself, I was like, "Oh my god, I feel so guilty," because in some ways, whether it wasn't my upbringing necessarily, it could have been cultural, societal, whatever. There was
Yeah,
some belief somewhere in there that like this is the pinnacle of your life. Like you're going to
yeah,
have kids and this is your job and you can't do
right,
anything else. And if you think about doing anything else, that's like so bad, like
right?
whatever. You're so neglectful, whatever. And I just started to realize, like, I actually am really enjoying this, and it's actually
Mhm.
very life-giving to have something else to give. And it's not that I didn't love being with my kids.
Mhm.
It's just it wasn't the ultimate source of, like, fulfillment
Right.
that it was for other people. And I started to realize, like, "Oh, well, this is not a bad thing. It's not right or wrong." And
Yes.
so leaning into that of, like, "Okay, I'm gonna accept this. I actually am enjoying this, and I don't need to give it up." Now, am I gonna let working come at the expense of my marriage and my kids? No. Like, then you start to have those conversations of, like, what does it really look like to keep
Right.
working? And, there have been seasons, I would say, even early on, including early on, where it's, like, financially and practically just necessary.
Right.
But, you know, there are times where it's not, or it hasn't
Mhm.
been, but I've just
Mhm.
chosen that because I actually
Mhm.
see that there's um a fulfillment that's there for me, and it does just make me a better mom. I just find
Yeah.
I'm happier because I enjoy working.
Well, and I love that you said that because I think that can let some moms off the hook. If you're feeling
Mhm.
that guilt for, like, I'm enjoying my job when I'm not around my kids,
Mhm.
maybe it's because there's something there that it's really part of your passion. And there
Yeah.
can exist they can exist simultaneously.
Yes.
They can exist in
Yes.
the same space, I have found.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think
I mean,
it's I
I
think
love
not
my kids.
comparing. Not
Oh,
comparing is, like,
woah.
key.
Let me write that one down. Not comparing. Boy, that's a big one. Do you think
Yeah.
moms really that, like, we innately compare our situation to other moms
Oh,
along the
yeah.
way?
Yeah.
Have you done
Absolutely.
that
I
in the
mean,
past? I mean, has that gotten you in trouble in the past in your thoughts?
I would say yes. So in 2020 with COVID, my older two were they were in public school, and obviously, the shutdown happens towards the end of the school year, so they go virtual. It's no big
Mhm.
deal. It's like the last 2 months of school. Well, that fall, your girls were still in school then, I'm
Yeah.
assuming, and
Yes, they were.
at least for us, we put them back, re-enrolled them, but everything was kind of like iffy. Are kids going back in person? Are they not? And
Mhm.
then at least at our kids' school, they started the year virtually, and my daughter was starting kindergarten, and they give them this laptop, and I have a baby. I mean, my youngest was not even 2 yet. Um, and, my daughter gets on the first day of school on this laptop, and she's sitting there, and they're in their virtual classroom, teacher's talking. She just, like, shuts the laptop. She's like, "I don't wanna do this." And I was like, "To be
Oh,
honest, like, I don't blame you. Like, this is
yeah.
ridiculous for a kindergartner."
Yeah,
And,
right?
we ended up pulling our kids out of school, and I took on the glorious responsibility of homeschooling.
Wait, I didn't
Yeah.
know that, Sarah.
Yes. So I was at that time, from a work standpoint, I was working from home, like, very part-time. Not because of COVID either. Like, that transition had actually happened about a month before everything shut down.
Mhm.
And I decided to homeschool, and because my husband had lost his job too.
Mhm.
He's a software developer, but the
Mhm.
company he was working for at that time is a yeah, it's Lonely Planet. I don't know if you've heard of, like, their travel books or anything, but they're all travel industry based. Well,
Yeah.
with COVID, the travel industry
Shut it
obviously shut
down.
down, so they had
Yeah.
massive layoffs. So we're just, like, all at home, and I'm homeschooling. And, I just remember thinking, like, "This is what have I done?"
Yeah,
But
well,
I
it
knew.
sounds to me like there's so much right there. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I
your
mean,
Thanksgiving plate is overflowing.
yeah, it was a lot, and I knew one thing: it was not forever. Like, it was like, "Okay, we're gonna do it for this year, and then we'll
Yeah,
go from there."
yeah.
But I was flying blind, and, I had friends that were, um well, a lot of my friends have younger kids. So some of them had kids in school, but not a lot of them. But,
Mhm.
it's so easy to kind of look, and even now it's, like, flopped where I have friends who have now pulled their kids from school. My kids are back in school. But I think overall, like the thing that all taught me is like, just because you're doing something one way for one time or one season doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way or has to stay that way for forever.
Yeah.
It's like that's, and again, that's kind of where some of that like flexibility piece comes in.
Yes.
But I think just staying aware of what the needs of your family and your
Mhm.
kids are, it always is, it's always evolving. It's always
Yeah.
changing. And so, um, you just have to, it's like that part of your brain that's just never going to shut off. And I think moms are wired that way in some ways. Is like, my husband sometimes is like amazed at the things that are like at one time in my brain. Cause he's very much like a, solo focused, like, he cannot multitask, bless his heart, to save
Yeah.
his life. But me,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm at work and I'm thinking about, okay, tomorrow my kids have their first quarter project presentations due, and like
Mhm.
this prop, and then we have this doctor's appointment, and then this, and I'm like texting him, oh, and also dinner, and like he's just like,
Yeah. All
what?
the tabs are open. I
But
call it
there's
the
just
tabs are open. Yeah.
exactly. It's like
Yeah.
I have 100 open tabs on my brain, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's like that on a macro scale with
Mhm.
our life too, and with the kids, and just thinking about what's next. And I know
Mhm.
not everyone's wired that way. Some of it is just my wiring is very forward thinking, but just being aware of like, okay, this season of my life, this is what's required. This is the demand. This is where my
Yeah.
attention needs to go. This is what's needed. And
Yeah.
yeah, that homeschooling season, man, I tell you what, I had to really stay focused on what I was doing and not allow what was happening for other people get in the way.
Yeah. Just stay in your lane. You had to stay
Yes,
extremely present
yes,
during that
yes,
time. Absolutely.
yes.
I wanna talk a little bit, go back with what you were talking about. Not everybody is necessarily wired the way you were,
Mhm.
like with the mom and all the 100 tabs that are open. But I would wager to bet that 99.9% of moms listening to this will say, "I can resonate with that on some level," because I feel like there are so many different constant tabs going through and constant chatter going through our brain, depending upon where our kids are in life and where where our jobs are in congruence with our kids. And the mom guilt is a really big thing. I'm really glad
Yeah.
you spoke to that, because understanding what works for you and what doesn't
Mhm.
work for you is not a detriment. It's
Yeah,
actually positive. And I
yeah,
don't think that we allow ourselves enough grace as working moms to say, I can only do X, Y, and Z. And this is where the line is drawn. And this is where I have to stop for ourselves, not just for
yes,
other people, but for
yes,
ourselves.
yes, yes. Yeah, so one of the things that going into this new school year, the school my kids are at, they're all at one school together, which is a
It's
lifesaver.
great. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but obviously lots of extracurricular options and activities and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And going into the school year, we had a conversation. And I mean, obviously my husband and I talked first, but then we had it with the kids. And each of my kids have 1 to 2 activities that they do outside of like a school activity. So my daughter does gymnastics. My oldest does Boy Scouts, and then baseball seasonally, like rec baseball. And then my youngest does rec baseball as well. And then my older two also do jujitsu.
Okay.
Um, so those are
That's a
like and
lot.
those are the things that they've had for like years, those are the
Okay.
kind of the ongoing stuff. So going into the
Mhm.
new school year, they're like, "Can we do," one of them was like dance, and one was like, I don't know, they were just like throwing out all these things that they heard about because they were so excited.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Look, like our schedule is about to change, and we don't know what that's going to look like."
Mhm.
And for me, I hate the feeling of like overcommitting to stuff. I hate that
Mm.
feeling of like constantly just like going through my day kind of autopilot speed mode, like one thing
Mhm.
to the next to the next to the next, and then you like
Yeah.
crash at the end of the day. I just
Yeah.
hate that like
Yeah.
rushed feeling. And so I told them, like, for the first semester, we decided, like, we're not adding anything extra. You can keep the stuff that you have, but we're not going to add anything extra. We need to see what homework load is like. We need to
Yes.
see what the commute is like. I need to see what my job started 2 weeks after or a week after the kids started school.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, there's so much going on that I don't want to change everything and then be
Mhm.
like, oh my God, what have we done? Like,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
have to like walk back on stuff or
Yes.
regret, like, and just everyone be miserable. I don't
Right,
want that.
right.
I like a peaceful evening as much as you can expect with 3 different sets of homework and dinner and
Yeah,
all of that.
right, right.
And so we just on the front end, whenever there's like a big change for us on the front end, um, we really look at everything through kind of what our values are. We
Mhm,
have some kind of loose values that just overarchingly that we've
mhm,
kind of formed over the years. And that we let that kind of inform the things that we commit to from
yeah,
there. And so that's definitely not based on what someone else is doing. But
yeah,
it's like, because I value a peaceful evening, okay, we're not going to just like heap on as many activities as we
yeah,
can.
yeah,
Um, because then that's just going to feel not fun for everyone.
right.
And so we'll get through Christmas and then we'll see. There's new sports starting
Mhm,
in January, and we can kind
mhm,
of reevaluate. Okay, what's working, what's not working? Can
mhm.
we commit to this? Can we not? But
I
I have
love
just
that.
found that
It's like
that's really
sitting with
helpful.
it and acclimating
Yeah.
because as the mom, you're kind of the hub of the wheel where
Yes.
all that's concerned, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Not that
Yeah.
not that your husband is not a part of it, he is
Totally.
equally a part of it, but he's a different part of the wheel than you are, and
Correct. And
you guys
he,
both serve your purposes.
in our dynamic, he is the extrovert as well. I am the introvert, and I love my people. I love time with them, but like one of the things that we've committed to for like right now is the weeknights outside
Mhm,
of, like I said, outside of the activities that we've already been doing is
mhm,
like we've got a routine kind of dialed in. So like we
mhm.
don't really like have people over. We don't really go do social stuff during the week because I'm like, I hate that. My kids have to be up at 6 a.m. I hate the
Yeah,
feeling of like getting home late at night, rushing to get in bed, and then having to drag them all out of bed because
yeah,
they're so tired. So it's just like I have become, it's been a journey, but like I've had to become very upfront with just like what works for me and what doesn't. And I think as
yeah.
moms, sometimes it's really hard to articulate. Like you almost, again, back to that mom guilt kind of thing,
Mhm,
you
mhm.
kind of start to feel bad to even have a need, or like have a desire of like,
Mm,
like,
that's big right
kind of
there.
like
Yeah,
you have to be a martyr for the cause, I think is oftentimes, and is being a mom sacrificial? Absolutely. Like,
absolutely.
absolutely. But like, I don't think that, you have to really let yourself, um, and really your well-being kind of go down the toilet because
Yeah,
you're a mom, because
right.
then you're not going to be a great mom. That's just what I've
Right.
I've come to find out.
Well, and I think you talked about, like, the overcommitment stuff. That's what I hear
Yes.
you saying, is that overcommitment thing is such a big deal in our society. It has been, like, I remember when my kids were little, it was we were gone all the time, on the go so much. I wouldn't change any of it necessarily,
Mhm.
but I would have articulated it and moved through it differently myself, probably as a
Mhm,
mom
mhm,
with
mhm.
work and balancing that and how that all looked within our household. But overcommitting, let me ask you, this new job, is it promoting and causing any kind of overcommitment that bleeds over into your home life? Or is it
You know
been pretty
Yeah.
balanced?
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't bleed over, and the reason why I said yes to this job because they approached me about it.
Okay.
And, um, I one, the flexibility of just only having to be in the office twice a week and
Yeah.
doing the rest of my work from home. But also, they very much understand that things come up with kids and life, and so if there's a reason, it's like they care more about me getting work done than, like, butts in a seat, and
Yeah.
so, I that was a big reason why I was open to even considering the
Mhm.
job because I did not want something in my last job. working for a church, which I know is a very niche position to be in,
Yeah.
there was a lot of bleed over. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know why that is.
Mhm.
Why in that kind of, even in the nonprofit sector, I have found this to be true, but that kind of unspoken expectation that just like you're on call almost.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
have my
so
ideas
there's,
on that one. Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
too. I
We'll
mean,
talk
I do too.
That's another
That'll be
podcast
another one.
episode.
um,
We'll do that one
so
next month.
yeah, it was, coming out of that, I got very clear for me, like,
Mhm.
okay, what am I not gonna do again? What am I not interested in doing?
Yes.
And
Values.
I let that value inform my decision with
Yeah.
this job.
Yeah. So the job's been good. It's still new for you, but
Great.
if we're looking back through the years, the last almost 14 years now
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
balancing momdom and working, like, tell me about what you've done along the way, what you found to be the best self-care, because I heard you say, like, at the expense of you don't have to flush self-care down the toilet as a mom that is balancing all these different things. So what works for you and what hasn't worked for you
Mhm.
self-care wise? Because it's such, I like, self-care is such a buzzword, and I know,
Yeah.
like, the podcast and my platform talks about self-care, but there's also a really interestingly fine line about what's too much and what's enough,
Mhm.
and how to find that for you within the balance of your community that you're within and what you serve.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is not like massages weekly. I can
I
although
think
I wish it was.
right. That'd be great.
No,
Absolutely.
I would say, uh, holistically speaking, therapy is
Mhm.
very helpful, for me. I haven't done it consistently, like, I wouldn't say I've been every week for 14 years, but I've definitely I'm in it right now and, had some time off, but that has been very helpful. Um And then honestly, very simple things like trying to get a good night's sleep
Oh,
and taking care
great.
of just my body. I mean, working out is something that has been the consistent thing for uh, the 14 years of being a
Mhm.
mom that I have found that like if I can keep up with this, I notice such a huge difference in
Right.
just how I feel mentally and physically. I don't wanna be like, "Oh my god, I can't get up off the floor." Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I really value that, and it like, the other byproduct of that is just having that time that's just for me. Like, this is something that I'm just doing just for me, it's not for anybody else.
Mhm.
Um, and then you know, just finding the things that I enjoy doing
Mhm.
hobby-wise, finding some time for that. It's not every day, it's not even every week, but, I love being outside. It's like, even if it like, when we go on vacation, I'm like, part of the reason we're going to the beach is because I like going to the beach. You
Yes.
guys like it too, but, like
Yeah.
and that's not often, but that's just a way of, like, yeah, this is gonna take care of me and you.
Yeah. Yes,
Um,
you're keeping yourself in mind in that
yes,
whole thing, like, and it's
yes.
feeding your mentality too, like, I love what you talked about, the whole workout and being able to be agile, right? But then you
Mhm.
take it another step further. I know I have found that when I'm active physically, it helps my brain be active
Oh,
to be
yeah.
able to process a lot
Oh, yeah.
easier, and
Yep.
kudos on therapy. I think everybody should experience therapy and go to therapy at least a season of their life. It's
Absolutely.
so beneficial. I will go
Yes.
to my grave speaking and preaching on that one for sure. So, and it can't be every week necessarily, depending upon where you are in your life. But I
Right.
love what you said about it's not always every week, but when it is, it sounds like it's intentional to me from what I hear you
Absolutely. Yeah.
saying.
Yes. Yes.
M-
Absolutely.
Making it
It's been a
intentional
game
is
changer.
such a
Yeah.
big deal.
Mhm. Yes.
Mhm.
Totally. I also just love, despite being introverted, I have my kind of circle, a small circle of friends. And so those are and some of them are like, they're also mom friends who's like
Mhm.
my kids are friends with. But even just taking the time to just hang out with a couple of my friends is also usually quite refreshing for me. And
Yeah.
because the ones that are moms, I have found there's always something that I learn from my other, like, close friends that are moms, because we're not all the same.
Yeah.
And, where one's strong in some areas than I am, I always am, like, inspired by, I have one friend who's, like, incredibly sentimental, and I am not sentimental. Like, I love
Oh,
my kids, and I love looking back on, but I mean, she, like, is so sentimental, and I'm
yeah.
like, "You just inspire me to, like, think a little bit longer."
Yeah. Yeah, it's about finding it's offsetting what it's finding our strength, but then offsetting it with, someone else's strength to kind of dive into our weakness so that
Yes.
we can then go, all right, they can do it. I think this is what it looks like for them. So that's where I would say comparison kind of comes in and plays, not as comparison, but as maybe more of a visual kind of, I see you, that might be able to work for me. And that's how we
Yes.
learn from one another.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Tell me about your work. You said earlier it supports the process of being a mom. How
Mhm.
important is that? And when you didn't have that, because I wager to bet you've had jobs along the way that did not support momdom. And what did that look like based on where you are now? Obviously, in a pretty rewarding situation where they understand that
Yeah.
this is something that comes first, your family and your household is first, but this is important as well. And,
Mhm.
when I feel like when an employer in my past, when an employer has given me those options and, hey, we see you, we understand you, I'm going to be a better employee, you know? And obviously a
Absolutely.
better mom. But if we're talking
Yeah.
about the work side of it,
Yeah.
I'm gonna really go to bat for you a whole lot more because I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel like acknowledged.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, at my last job, it wasn't always this way, but towards the end, if I had to be home with a sick kid, or, um, if it was a break, like a school break, and I didn't have childcare, um, I would have to use, like, my PTO or my
Mm,
sick days, and
mhm,
that was always hard because then it was like, I just would feel, and part of it too was because ultimately my husband's job was very inflexible before, and so
yeah,
it did fall to me mostly if, there was something that came up with the kid. So it's like, okay, now I have to make this sacrifice, which really is fine. Obviously, I wanna be there for my kids, but it would stress me out because I'm like, I
mhm,
have this little pool of days and hours to work with, and it's just like, I still have to, like, kind of work from home, but, like, it's like nothing felt like a win, I think,
mm,
ultimately, when
yeah,
at the end of the day, I'm thinking, like, "Well, it doesn't matter, like, I should just be able to get my work done. You can count on me. I've been here for so long." It's just
yeah,
that kind of, like, mental weight and stress of just like, "Okay, w crap."
yeah, yeah. It's the mental gymnastics that you go
Yeah,
through when you're in that
yeah.
situation.
And
Yeah.
it's like I think there's, like, some guilt, and there's just, like, that tension of, like, I don't know what to give my attention to.
Oh,
I feel
wow, yeah,
conflicted. I feel, it's just it was very complicated, and I don't like complicated
yeah,
personally. Um, and so now it's just like I can be very upfront, and,
mhm,
like, it's just like it's just chill. That's how I describe it.
yeah,
I've just it's like it's so chill. I mean,
yeah.
it's not, but it is.
But look, it took you like 13 years to get to this point too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if
Yeah.
we're talking to like a new mom that is
Mm.
just getting ready to drop their 3-month-old or 6-month-old or 9-month-old back into daycare or into in-home
Mhm.
setting or with a sitter and start back to work, even part-time, like, gosh, what would you say to them? They're having
Ugh.
sincere, like, concerns about
Yeah.
leaving their child. Obviously, that's
Mhm.
number 1 after
Yeah.
birthing them and being with them, but also, how do you let them know that you're doing what you need to do and it's okay and you have the ability to balance it?
I would say you just gotta take one day at a time, for sure.
Mm,
Don't
mhm.
get too far ahead of yourself, and your kids are way more resilient than you realize.
Oh my gosh, that's a mic drop moment,
You
Sarah.
know, I
Yeah.
just think that sometimes, we think So this is kind of like, I think it's two sides of the same coin. I think we think we are like the most important thing in our kids' lives, and we are.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, I do think that there is a self protection thing inside of kids too, that like as my kids get older, I realize the more I can give them some autonomy, the better
Mm.
it is for them, right? Now, as a baby, practically, yes, there's a lot of needs,
Yeah.
physical needs that your kids have, but like emotionally and mentally. And I think one, because and I'll tell you why I think that I have come to this place. My
Okay.
husband grew up with a mom who was in and out of prison and was a drug
Mm.
addict his entire life. And she actually passed away about 8 months after we got married.
Mhm.
And when we were dating, though, I remember like one of our, or it might have been even right before we started dating, but he was telling me about his childhood. My husband has never done drugs. He's never touched alcohol. He never arrested. Like he's like on like he's a
Completely the
very like
opposite.
well-rounded human. And I remember when
Yeah.
he was telling me all these things, I was like, how are you so normal? Like he
Yeah.
didn't know his dad until he was 13. So like he was raised with a mix of his mom and other family members. And I just remember thinking like I've never met someone with such a dysfunctional upbringing
Mhm.
who's like so just
Level.
normal was what I said to his face. That's
Yeah.
not like the most PC thing to say, I guess now, but I
Yeah.
just remember being like, what?
Mhm.
And I think that kind of put me in this headspace then as time went on, where it's not that I was like hands off, okay, my kids are fine. Look, my husband turned out.
Yeah.
But it
Right.
just it kind of like reframed some stuff where like I don't have to I'm not the hero of their lives. I mean, I might be. Like they may think that like, but I don't need to put that on myself. I don't need to try and be
Yes.
the hero, right? I am gonna obviously be there and support them and all of that. But like we are our own worst critics. I am the first to
Mhm.
say, like,
Yeah.
have I ruined
Same.
my kids' lives?
Same. Same. I'm
I
same.
regularly think about this, like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I might as well start their therapy fund now.
Well, that's
Um,
what I was talking to my husband about that last week. I was like, "Dude, I've totally screwed the kids up by X, Y, and Z,
yes,
and at
yes.
35, we'll be talking about this with their therapist."
I mean, this past weekend, we went out of town for fall break. My parents came for a couple of the nights, and our last morning there, my mom and I are having coffee, and she said something. Well, we were talking about my therapist now is a like her specialty is trauma therapy, and my mom was
Mhm.
just like, my mom's a therapist as well,
Yes.
but my mom she's like, I just have to ask, like, what, just for my own sake, like, is there like trauma? Like, what trauma do you feel? I was like, "No, no, no, no. It's not there's nothing." Like, but, like, I
No.
get it because, like, I would be saying the same things to my
Yeah.
kids. So she was like,
Yeah.
"Well, I think about this thing and this
Yeah.
thing." And I was like, "Well, that's not on my radar, so, like, I think you're good."
Yeah.
And,
I've
it's
actually
just
had those conversations with my older daughter. I'm, like, thinking as a mom that, "Oh my god, I totally did that wrong." And I now that she's old enough to have a mature conversation and understand what I might be saying, she's like she looks at me when I say something like that when we have a conversation, she's like, "What are you I don't even know where you're going."
you're like,
Like,
"Okay,
"What?"
good. Good, good, good.
I'm
Never
like,
mind."
"Okay, and we're moving on." Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
love what you said. We don't have to make ourselves the hero of the story for our kids' lives. If
Yeah.
I mean, we want them to love and look up to us and we want to be their role model. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to be the role model in the best way that I possibly can
Yes.
show up for my kids. I think
Yes.
that's the desire and the drive for moms. I also want to be successful in my work life because I feel
Yeah.
like I owe that to myself as a person and
Absolutely.
finding those two different areas and how they exist together is always this ebb and flow like you've talked about through our whole conversation here today. You have to find that, but I love that the kids, thank you for this so much. Again, kids are more resilient than we give them credit for.
Mhm. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I also find too that, in that vein, I find that keep trying to keep obviously, it's hard when they're younger, but trying to keep, like, some open, channels of communication with your kids is really
Mhm.
helpful. So, like, even as simple as like, "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that," to my
That's
kids
a big
is like,
one, yeah?
they may kind of brush it off, but, like, I just know, that that is really helpful for a kid
Yeah.
because I think sometimes we think, "Well, I'm the parent, you're the kid. I know what I'm doing, you don't know." It's like, but
Yeah.
I definitely get it wrong. So, if anything, I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna own that for you because I hope
Mm,
that you eventually feel comfortable." And my
mhm.
kids do. They're fiery kids. They'll be like, "You don't have to say that." It's like, "Don't tell me what to do."
Then you're like
You're
them, like,
right.
don't yeah, and all the things. My kids have caught me, specifically my youngest one. My oldest one has her own set of strengths where that's concerned, right, in communication, but my youngest one will call my bluff every time,
Yep.
and if I don't step up and say, I probably shouldn't have said that way, or I'm sorry if you took it out of context. This
Yeah.
is really what I meant by that.
Yeah.
I mean, woof, woof. That's a hard pill to swallow.
It is. It's very hard, but I wanna get good at it now so that as they get older, we can have very candid conversations.
Yes. Yeah, and I have found that doing that now that my youngest daughter is 18 and she's away at college, we've had very candid conversations since she's been gone for the last couple of months now.
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting. It's really interesting to see the evolution of our kids and
Uh-huh.
how that works, and how they grow and mature through their
Yeah.
experiences and then how
Yep.
they interrelate to you, even
Yeah.
your 7-year-old, even
Yeah.
your 14-year-old, all of it.
Yeah.
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 How did they handle you as a working mom?
Um, I mean, it's mostly all that they've known. I would say
Mhm.
this summer was kind of, um it was like the first, like, a good chunk of time where they've had, like, gotten to experience it not that way.
Yeah.
Um, and, like I said earlier, in the church world, sometimes that bleed over to between, like, work and family, it's a very fuzzy area, and so
Right.
there would be times where, well, I mean, for instance, I had to work on Sundays. My kids are out of school on Sundays. My husband's off work on
Yeah.
Sundays. Like there would be times where it's like, oh, I can't come to this thing. I can't do this because I have to work. And
Mhm.
as they've gotten older, there have been times where it's like very hard for them or they were very sad about it. And that's where it was
Yeah.
like the mom
Yeah.
guilt.
Yeah. It's real. It's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
How do
So
you think, well, in terms of that now, understanding this is the gift of those bad things, or those, not to say bad
mhm.
things, those experiences that are not necessarily aligned with us, when
Yeah.
we go through something like that that's kind of yicky for us, for whatever
Yeah.
rubs us the wrong way, it teaches
Yes.
us what we will do, what we won't do,
hmm
right? Obviously,
Yeah.
but how do you think that work can better support moms in general, like the workplace? What are some of the things that
Oh.
you have found through your existence,
Yeah.
as an employee across the years?
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously the low hanging fruit is that like flexibility component.
Yeah.
Um, Now, obviously, like if you're working in retail or restaurants, like that's a little different. Like
Mhm.
the way you execute your job is by being there in person. But
Mhm.
I think um the flexibility piece is just so helpful and just like a lens of like compassion, I think too. And not trying to fit everything in the same box. I think
Mhm.
one of
Mhm.
the things that I've seen be very helpful is like just an adaptability component where like not you don't have to treat every employee the exact same way. Now,
Oof.
I get it. The bigger of a company you work for, the harder it is to do more
Sure.
nuanced arrangements, but even things like on breaks and stuff like that, it's like um working around like a work from home time. It's like that's when that scramble of like childcare, like, oh, I rely on school as kind of our schedules, revolve around the school schedule.
Yeah,
And so when there's that
absolutely.
like break in school, but I still have work and it's like
Mhm.
kicking money towards childcare or finding just like that.
Mhm.
I think things like that, just very practical um ways of just, you know, hey, why don't you just like get your work done from home? Not a big
Yeah.
deal. Be on these meetings, whatever. I think those are ways that really can help support those moms that have
Yeah.
to work and juggle it all.
Practical flexibility. I
Yeah.
think it's that's practical flexibility and being,
Yeah.
being open to that as an employer. I think then it generates a better employee.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
initially talked about, you're a better mom when you're working. That's what you have found, especially
Yeah.
when you're working in something that you're passionate about,
Yeah.
really feeds you.
Yeah.
That like I remember having a client at one point years ago, and I was like, we did some meditation work together. And she's like, I don't meditate. This is slowing me down. This is horrendous. I have a job that has to go. I don't need to be slowing down. I need to be doing modalities that speed me up. And I was like, if you can slow down for just a snapshot of time, it will allow everything to kind of catch up. And then your clarity and your focus will be a lot more clear. So if we think about it in terms of, feeding ourselves, if we are giving ourselves what we really need, even though it feels a little bit uncomfortable,
Mhm.
maybe,
Mhm. Mhm.
or counterproductive to where we
Mhm.
are, it's still, it just have that experience and know that it's okay to, the two things can coexist simultaneously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. It doesn't
Mm.
have to be one or the other. I don't think personally.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
thank you for
at
saying
times
that.
it might have to be, but I don't think it always does.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay if it is. It's okay if it's not. And the comparison thing too. I mean, we can
Oh,
brush that through everything.
oh, you totally can. It'll
Yeah.
kill you.
Yeah. Right? Right?
Yes.
Golly. What is one piece of encouragement that you might give to a working mom that might be struggling with mom guilt or schedule or stuff that's going on at home that may be
Mhm.
bleeding over into work or stuff at work that's bleeding over into home? What would be some encouragement that you might be able to shed light on based on your experience that has worked for you?
I would say, you know, this is kind of back to the self-care conversation. I think one of the things in those for women, working mom women,
Mhm.
when you don't have, even if you can find like 5 minutes to carve out for yourself, just to, I don't know, sit somewhere quiet. I think sometimes that sense of overwhelm and the things that feel really hard is because you kind of feel like you're burning the candle at both ends, and
Yeah.
or that the on the airplane, the oxygen mask thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like they tell you to put your oxygen mask on before you put your kid's oxygen mask on if you're traveling
Yeah.
with a kid. So I have found in the times where I feel like I'm worn very thin, it's because I kind of will do like a quick inventory of like, when was the last time I was just like by myself? Like, even if it was in the
Mm.
car, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not even like shopping or anything like that. It's just like, when was the last time I just had like a little bit of time to myself to think,
Yeah.
think, to not have noise, like, and
Yes.
if it's like, oh, I actually don't remember the last
Then
time,
it's
like,
time
okay,
to
911.
check back in.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think if you can just, when you're starting that feeling of overwhelm, I can't get it right, I'm dropping these balls, this feels really hard,
Mhm.
is like just taking, even if it's like 5-10 minutes, if you can, even if it means like you get up a little bit early and sit in your house in quiet. I
Yeah.
love being in my house alone, and that like rarely happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the mornings are the easiest time to have kind of that feeling.
Yeah.
But just finding like that, those few minutes, because that's when you might just get some clarity
Mhm.
on how to handle something or how to navigate, or just some peace with your own thoughts. It's like,
Yes.
I just have found that oxygen mask concept to be like, oh, maybe I just need a minute.
Mm. I love that because it's all it takes. That's
Mhm.
been my experience.
Mhm.
It just takes that little piece of time.
Mhm.
And when you do that, it gives you, like you said, that clarity, that inner peace.
Yeah.
I feel like mine is the evenings. This is crazy. It always was when my kids were younger, when everybody was home, everybody was in bed, everybody was like my brood was all safe. They're all in one place basically. And I was like, okay, now I feel like I can sit down. TVs
Uh-huh.
are all off. My
Yeah.
husband has even gone to bed, and I'm gonna sit out here in the kitchen at the kitchen table. I'm gonna journal for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
or
Yep.
I'm just gonna sit and, like you said, just sit and breathe,
Yeah.
like, just sit and breathe. Yeah, and it sounds
That's
better whenever I do
yes,
that.
that's it's miraculous what just sitting and breathe that's what my therapist has me working on right now. We're working on nervous system regulation, and, like, that that's a whole other thing, but, like, that
Yeah.
feeling, I think, for moms of that overwhelm and juggling it all and, whatever, is usually when you start to notice that you're having that hard time, it's because, like, something's a little off inside, right? And
Yes.
so we're working on the breathing thing, and it does wonders.
I love that. I had actually a physical therapist about a month ago talking to me about that with some psoas issues that I was having that I had to go to therapy for. And she's like, "Are you even breathing into your gut?" And I'm like,
Same. You're
maybe,
like, "What?"
maybe not. What? Huh?" And I was a yoga instructor. I know exactly what she's talking about, but how easy it is for us to get wrapped up in
Yep.
all of our day-to-day stuff and
Yeah.
all of the responsibilities, the
Yeah.
obligations that we have in our lives as women, as moms, as we're working women in the world right now,
Yeah.
and navigating all of the complexities that come with any given day. This
Yeah.
this change and having to have the flexibility. I think those are the biggest takeaways I've heard from you is it's kind of staying grounded in that moving flexibility and understanding that you don't have to do things all one way. It can be different and
Mhm.
you can exist in two different spaces at the same time, two different planes of thought, if you will. Like
Yeah.
you can't split, like if we can time travel and like cut our
God.
bodies in half, right?
Yeah.
Physically. But you know what I'm
I know
saying.
what
Like
you mean, yes.
yeah, you can have different spaces of emotional existence within the same bowl, and
Yes.
it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sarah, I love this. I'm
Oh,
so
thank
with
you.
you.
Yeah, this was great. This was
Oh, thank
great.
you so much for spilling all your good details and all your vulnerabilities too,
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Yes.
and let's go. Everybody go to therapy. Man, everybody go to therapy at some
Seriously.
point.
I can give you some recs.
Yeah, I can too. Your mom's a great one, by the way. Just gonna
She
go
is
out
a
there and
great
say
one.
that one.
Yes.
She's awesome. Well, tell Sean, tell your husband I said hey.
I
Tell your
will.
mom I said hey. I haven't seen
I
her in a hot
will.
second. And yeah, I would love to get coffee with you and
I
catch
would
up
love that. I would
when we
love that.
have like a red hot second, but we can
Yes.
make it work.
Yes, I would love to. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Have a wonderful rest of your night, okay?
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye bye.